Traditional leather boots with pivot designs allow for natural ankle movements, but they do not allow for any limitations to these movements, oftentimes causing injuries. When designing the Scott pivot system, we wanted to allow for natural movements of the ankle. We also wanted to restrict those movements in areas where the ankle was at risk of breakage or ligament tear. So in the rear of the boot, we were able to design a mechanical stop. Now this mechanical stop we would not have been able to design this mechanical stop without the use of the materials that we're using here. Again, we're using a material known as Hytrel, provided to us from DuPont. So in the rear of the boot, we have a mechanical stop. As the rider extends in this range, the area here on the boot will limit that motion. The same feature can be found on the front part of the boot. So as the boot collapses, the mechanical stop will stop the boot or prevent the rider from moving into those dangerous areas. Now, one of the most unique features of this boot, and any boot with a pivot system, is that we allow for pronation and supination, but we also restrict those movements. So in this part of the boot here, you have a natural flex of side-to-side movement, but you also have limitations to those movements, which is a key characteristic and feature of the Scott pivot system. You can also find it on this side of the boot as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely feel that the boot allows me to ride faster and more aggressive due to it's mental and a confidence thing, that if I do mess up, overshoot a jump, my foot flies off the peg and I run it over, any aspect I feel 100% comfortable and protected.
I used to twist my ankles a lot before, and I've never twisted my ankles yet. And the boots are great, and I've loved them ever since I've worn them.
When designing the Scott pivot system, there were some key components to the design that we needed to address as far as protection is concerned. Some of the most common injuries suffered by motocross riders to the lower leg are ankle sprains, ankle fractures along with ligament tears, and full fractures of the tibia and fibula. With the limited range of motion due to the mechanical stops on the Scott pivot system, we're able to prevent the ankle from moving into dangerous zones, into these zones where ankle sprains occur and ligaments tend to sprain. Suffered by motocross riders, we felt there was a definite need for an improved upper part of the boot. Now, traditional boots open like a clamshell, to where you have a lot of material on the inside of the boot and an overlapping material on the outside. Now, a lot of times this creates pressure points on the inside of the boot, but also off-centers the protection on the front part of the boot. With the Scott boot, we have the opening directly in the middle of the boot, which works well with an adjustable shin guard. This shin guard can always be adjusted and centered directly over the tibia and fibula. It happens to be one of our worldwide patents, one of 3 issued to this boot.
Like the bottom of the sole is really firm, so it doesn't bend your ankle and hurt your ankle. So you can flat land a jump on the balls of your feet and you're still good to go. So it's got a lot of protection for me.
One particular time I was super stoked to have my boots on. I was coming up to a jump wide open and I actually missed my scrub a little bit, overshot the jump into a bunch of ruts on the landing. My foot actually ripped off the peg and got sucked underneath my bike, and I ran my own foot over, which thank God I had them on, because I truly feel like as if I didn't have the boots on, my ankle would have been toast for sure. Okay, so when I first saw the Scott boot, they just looked like ski boots. They looked super stiff. and I figured there's absolutely no way I was going to be able to feel the shifter nor the brake. When I tried them, I was in awe of how comfort and how well I could actually feel the shifter, the brake, and just move comfortably on the foot pegs.
After addressing the protective needs for motocross boots and the protective features found on the Scott Genius boot, we then set out to provide the rider with a high level of performance in this product. The first area that we addressed was rider feeling and sensitivity inside the boot. Found on top of the left side, or the shifter side of the boot, we have a SureFeel shifter pad. There's a softer material on the top part of the boot here, which on the inside has internal ridges. So as the rider depresses the shift lever, the internal ridges transfer feeling directly on top of the bootie. It's definitely a feature not found on any type of leather boot. You could feel the brake lever on this Genius boot. We've added a material, or a thinner material, on the foot shell or foot sole of the boot. So on this area of the boot, there's a softer material, or a thinner material, that transfers feeling directly on the underside of the bootie. There are also internal ridges on the inside of the shell, which are used to transfer that feeling onto the bootie.
All the boots, they looked a little different, and I kind of thought, well, I don't know what these are going to be like, and then once I wore them, it took me just a minute to get used to them, but once I wore them and I got used to them, I got as much mobility as I used to be able to ride with, and I got enough mobility and ankle support and everything. I can move my ankles just as much as I used to be able to.